So, welcome to In Full Light. This is our Substack live series where really we just celebrate the heart led practitioners inside our community who are every day stepping into their power and sharing the gifts with the world. And today we are joined by Nikki Kountouriotis. I think I said that right. I'm going to cop to it if I didn't. And Nikki, we're excited to have her. She's a psychic, she's a soul writer here on Substack, and she's teaching intuitive women to remember their power, rewrite limiting beliefs, and trust their intuition. So thank you, Nikki. We're really happy to have you here with us.
Thanks for having me. This is my first Substack Live. And I'm just really excited to be here with you two.
Yes, thank you for being here, and thank you everyone for joining us. So if you have any questions, please post it in the chat, and we're going to do our best to respond to that.
Yeah. So, just to kind of kick things off, Nikki, we want to hear a little bit about your story. So I'd love to have you just share whatever you feel called to share about who you are, what you do. But I think the thing that for our audience that we're most interested in hearing is kind of like why you do it. Like, what is the deeper calling behind your work?
Oh, this is such a big question because it's like the deeper meaning behind my work is like what drives me every day. And really, my soul won't let me not do this. There's been like moments of like, what am I doing? I mean, and sometimes that doubt and those voices creep in, and my higher self just rebuttals the argument and says, no, like, this is what you're meant to do. And really the deeper meaning behind it is I want to really empower women and teach women how to be self-sourced instead of outsourced. And that obviously comes from my own personal experience of like hustling. I used to really be committed to the hustle, and it's really deeply ingrained in me. And it took a toll in my own personal life. And I see the women that I work with, they're really ambitious, and they're really determined to have a fulfilling, really wholesome life that has meaning. But that meaning gets covered up a lot behind these subconscious beliefs and patterns and programming. And it's really not their fault. These are survival strategies that we've taken on. And perfectionism, people pleasing are real big ones with the clients that I work with. And it's something that I've battled with in the past, not so much now. I mean, there's glimmers of it that come through. So my own transformation is what I want people to feel for themselves. And like I said, that comes down to just taking back your power from giving it away to all these outside sources. I used to be like a self-help junkie, reading the books, taking the courses, listening to all the podcasts and taking in all the information when the truth really was within me. And I teach that to my clients. And so I did Akashic Record readings for many years. And I got this intuitive nudge to teach people and women how to do this for themselves. And just to really find that truth within themselves. Because our body knows, our bodies, our DNA, our cells, it carries the truth of who we are. And if we stop for a moment and be still and listen to that inner knowing and that inner voice. I'm psychic. I've been psychic my whole life, but I really didn't tap in and tune into the inner knowing. I knew things. I didn't know how I knew them. And I thought that this was just how everybody was. And it was when I started doing psychic training with my mentor, and really started honing in on that inner voice in my higher self, I knew that I could always turn to that reliable source within me. And I didn't have to go searching. And this is what I want women to know. You don't have to doubt yourself. because there's a lot we've been programmed to doubt and seek answers out there. The answers are always out there. And with doing these Akashic readings, I started seeing a pattern of people coming back. And I love providing this service for people because I'm tapping into their own soul records. The answers aren't coming from me. They're coming from them. And I want them to know that they can do this and feel empowered in this ability to tap into this whole well of innate wisdom, because that's what it is. It comes from within. And so I think the more that women learn that they can be confident in trusting this innate inner knowing and psychic ability, their own psychic ability, however they decide to use that, they can start living with freedom and peace and fulfillment and feel whole as themselves. And that's really why I do what I do. And like I said, my soul won't let me not do this. So every day it's like, you're doing it and you're bringing people along, through the journey. And that's really fulfilling for me. So it's like the work we do for others is also healing for ourselves. So it's not just I'm putting out this information and serving in this way. It's also healing for me and for my soul and my daughters too. I want to leave a legacy for my daughters where I'm the example for them and I'm the role model for them. And I think I have a 19-year-old and a 22-year-old, and they're very strong-willed. And there's a lot of aspects of what I do that they're already embodying, where it took me, 40 years to learn to embody this truth. And so I'm watching them and I'm seeing my work break this karmic ties and these generational curses of speaking up, because it hasn't always been easy for me. And so, just leaving a legacy and spreading this knowledge and this love and this freedom to other women.
Thank you. This is beautiful. And it's such an important work, I feel, because it feels so normal to outsource wisdom from out there, right? To always be looking out there for answers that sometimes, like, at least in my own experience, like I question myself. I used to, I'm not in that space anymore, but I think it's an ongoing work. Like it's easier, or it feels righter to question ourselves than to question the outer world. And I think what you're bringing here is like, hey, this is reverse. Like this is not actually the truth. Like the truth is that we hold that in us, and we should be feeling safe enough to honor that. And it might be exactly the opposite of the world is telling you, but we need to stand up and speak up and say our truth, because this is where it's going to take us, where our soul wants us to go, where we are meant to go. And we do have a lot of questions for you, but I just want to go here. Alicia, she said, can you tell us to get started listening beyond the noise? So if you could share a little more, like how to start listening beyond the noise in your experience.
Yeah, so I think this might be a big challenge for ambitious women that are people pleasing and in the perfectionist mode, because they're in the doer mode. And when you're in the constant doer mode, you're up in your head, and it starts with connecting with your heart, and that takes stillness and just quieting the mind and coming back to the body and connecting with that stillness within. And I'm a big proponent for meditation, because that was really the jumping off point for me. And I started with guided meditations because it's an active type of meditation. It's giving your mind something to do. So when your mind is always active and you try and just to sit and be still and silent, it's really uncomfortable and it's really difficult. So guided meditations was my starting point, and I still use them when I feel like I have some anxiety within my body or within my mind. So really just coming to that still point first and deliberately making room for that throughout the day. That's really a starting point, and just listening to what your soul is saying to you. And it'll start dropping in like these little breadcrumbs. It could be words, it could be symbols, it could be colors. But really just start having a conversation with that inner dialogue. I speak to my inner self like I would speak to you. And my higher self would say, I don't know, garden, for instance. And I'll be like, okay. And I'll intuitively connect that word, garden. But if I need clarity, I'll ask, what is the message with this? And it's really learning to connect and create that inner relationship with that voice within. And that starts with becoming still and becoming present. I've practiced my meditation for years and years and years. And then it starts to carry off into your everyday mundane life. My favorite place, and this sounds really maybe strange to other people, is my mindfulness practice is in doing the dishes and cooking. And yeah. Hold on one moment. I think my computer's about to die. 1 second.
Okay. Yeah, but that's really fun. Like I like doing that too, like just mixing up like mindfulness and daily stuff, like things that are like, that sometimes you could think that it's separate from connection or separate from a space of where we connect to our higher self. But thank you for that. This is really helpful, and I think it's the practice, right? Like you've been doing for years, and the beginning, I'm sure it was different from where you are right now, but you gotta like keep going. And I think we spoke about my next question a little bit, but if you could go just deeper, like maybe your own experience or with your clients, like what is the transformation? So like, like I come to you and I'm feeling scattered and I lost connection with myself. Now I'm, doing, sessions and whatever and practicing that with, in my life too. So what is the before and after, like the transformation that people go through? If you could speak a little more on that.
So with my clients, really the end goal is for them to hear themselves first. And most importantly, trust in that inner voice. Because like I said, going back to the trust aspect of it, we get these hits and these knowings and these visions and these signs and these symbols. But then we question and doubt. And then we immediately go to Google or maybe now it's AI to get confirmation. And really, it's almost like you have to free fall backwards off the mountain and trust that you're being held. And it's scary at first to trust yourself. But once you do it, the more you do it, and this is what I teach, is this trust aspect, trusting in this inner knowing and instinct and your intuitive capabilities. You can do anything in life when you're listening to this wisdom and you're trusting it and you're taking action on it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's really the big picture of what I help my clients do when I teach them to do this. That's the big picture. And life really starts to change in so many ways when you start to honor your truth. And that's really what it comes back to, is honoring what's true for you. When we've given our power away for so long to outside sources, we come to a point where we don't even know who we are and what our truth is. So we kind of start with that. And that means coming back to the body and coming back to, like I said, your intuition and your inner knowing.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Sarah's asking, do you also recommend having a relationship with your inner child? I was told that I couldn't see my higher self because I couldn't see my inner child.
I don't think your inner child and your higher self are two separate things. And you are born with a relationship to your higher self. I was born into a very unlikely situation. I experienced very complex childhood trauma. And so that connection, now looking back and going into my records and seeing the truth of that situation, my higher self has always been with me. And I believe that I couldn't be where I am today and be so successful and abundant in what I do if I didn't have that connection with my higher self. It's a divine force that's always with you. So don't ever let anybody convince you that you're disconnected from your higher self. There may be moments in life and periods in life where you're not as connected. And your inner child is the innocence of who you are. And so I don't believe that it's something separate. And I have done inner child work and went back to little Nikki, and I still do to this day, and asked little Nikki, what is it that you need right now in this moment? Or what is it, with doing this subconscious work and this rewriting these survival strategies, going back to that inner child or that little Carolina or that little Phil and saying, what is it that you need or needed at the moment that you didn't receive? And you can rewrite the story. And I've personally done this, and I've helped clients do this, go in to the Akashic Records and rewrite that story. You have a vision of what actually happened in this physical life, but you also can go in energetically and rewrite the story of empowerment and love and compassion and rewire the energy. So, working with your higher self and your inner child is one and the same.
Thank you. And Nikki, maybe I have a sense that most people here probably already have an understanding, but for anyone who's listening, maybe isn't super familiar with this language of the Akashic Records, could you just give us the simplest definition of what you mean when you speak to that?
Yeah. So the Akashic Records is your soul's energetic library. It holds everything from past, present, future, parallel lifetimes. So it's any experiences, any wounding, any triumphs, any ideas, beliefs. Beliefs are a big one that I work on inside the records. So it's really simple. It's just your soul's energetic library. And you can rewrite the records. Like I said, you can go back and rewrite past experiences. In fact, working on, for me, being visible and using my voice to express myself has been something I've been challenged with. And so I went back into the records, into a past life to heal a witch wound. I was a town healer, an elderly woman who gave medicine to the children and to the women, and that was frowned upon. And so the town officials and police came and got me out of my home and took me to the town square, and I was hung. And I seen where the energy lied. And so I went back and I rewrote the story. And it was beautiful. And it was like, it almost makes me want to cry. It was amazing. And this is what I know is possible for other people. Because everything is energy, right?
Yes.
And everything.
Giving me goosebumps over here.
Me too.
So you have the power. One of my favorite quotes is from Carl Jung, and it's, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And what my guides have told me is your life is not fated. You get to choose in every moment, every step of the way. You have a choice. There are certain circumstances and experiences that our soul chose before we came here that will happen. But majority of what our life experiences are is through choice. We get to choose differently every moment of our life.
Yeah, it's so powerful what you're sharing. And I think there are like so much suffering related to the past because we were trained again, like going out there for the source of knowledge that like time is like this linear thing. And then what happened, like happened, and there's no way to change it. And the way you were sharing is just beautiful. Like you can actually change the story. And if you change the story, you change the energy behind. And if you change the energy behind, you actually change your present moment, right? So it's so, yeah, fascinating how we have the ability to navigate through different timelines and liberate ourselves from stuff that, we are like holding because maybe we don't believe that we had the choice to go back and change, maybe happen to someone that passed away. How do we do that, right? It's challenging for the mind and for people like that still source their power from outside.
I love that you use the word liberation. It's like one of those words that just really, like, I have a shirt on that says freedom. It's really like that's really one of my top missions is freedom. And freedom from our stories, freedom from our past, freedom from the pain and the suffering, because we don't have to carry that with us. And we can create a new direction and a new story and a new narrative for ourselves. And yes, I really love that you used the word liberation, because when you're liberated from these beliefs and these survival strategies that like we've brought on and not even really on ourselves, we've really taken on from our surroundings and our environments. Um, there's just a whole new world out there waiting for you. It opens up so many possibilities.
Yes, absolutely. And in going just to your journey, it feels to me that like you went through, and we still like it's an ongoing process of like healing ourselves, and then from the new space that you tapped in, now you can help people to heal the same, the same way you did for yourself. Was there like a turning point that you decided that like I needed to do this. Like, this is my, like, when was this is my, you talk about your higher self, like, this is what you're supposed to be doing. But can you just share a little more if there was a turning point, and how was it that you decided, like, I'm going to go full in helping women to liberate themselves from their past and, achieving their full potential?
Yeah, definitely. So it was probably about a decade ago. I was at a yoga festival in the woods. And it's a big festival that happens every summer in Michigan. And I happened to come across this young psychic and who approached me. And she said some things to me, and I was really intrigued by what she was saying. And so I booked a session with her. And in the very first session, all my guides came through, and I wasn't not familiar with psychic readings. I had done them in the past. But this one was really pivotal for me, and my guides came through and said, I needed to start healing my childhood trauma, and at that point, I had no interest in doing that. I was, like, full speed ahead, like, I've got goals, I've got vision, I've got dreams, like, I'm not looking to the past. And I was extremely disconnected from my body in my emotions. And so when I heard that, I was like, I don't really want to do that. Like, this is not productive. But there was that voice in me when I left that session, and I knew the truth. So one thing led to another, and I started really into the self-discovery of my emotions and my body, because there was a lot of stuffed and buried anger and resentment and grief. Grief was a big one. And so I started seeing the psychic on a regular basis, and she became my soul purpose business mentor. And every time I met with her, there was just magic. And I was like, this woman is an earth angel. Like, she is my earth angel. And I started to notice I was putting a lot of my power within her and these readings. And I started hearing about the Akashic Records and that truth. When I heard that word, just resonated within my body. And that's really how truth lands. You know truth in your body. And it's something you sometimes, like when it's this big of a mission, I couldn't deny it. So I started doing more search into the Akashic Records, and I started following the breadcrumbs and listening to my higher self and my guides. And my guides had me coming back to the Akashic Records every day, just really dabbling into the records and really becoming curious to where I was, where my soul wanted to take me, what was my lesson in that moment. And then my guide came through and said, now you're going to start doing this for others. And I was like, wait, what? And of course I questioned it and I doubted it, because I was like, that's for somebody else. That's not for me. And that's usually what happens, is we doubt and we're like, no, that's for them. That's not possible for me. And so bit by bit, my soul said, do 100 practice readings. And I was like, where do I start? And I got names of where I start. And I started going down the list, and I did 100 practice readings. And then I was guided, now you're going to start charging for this. And I was like, what? Every step, it was like, wait, what? I'm just practicing. No. And so I started charging a very minimal fee. It was $50 at first. And then I just followed the breadcrumbs into the next step and the next step. I didn't have a vision. I didn't have this grand vision. And it took me a while to be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm doing this. And then people started coming back, and I started getting testimonials of how I was changing their life. And I was like, wow, this is really amazing. So I've really just learned to follow that inner voice and that wise guy and my higher self. And I never could have guessed 10 years ago that I would be doing this work, changing people's lives in this way. So it was really soul led. And like I said, when there's days where I'm like, oh my goodness, what am I doing? What is this? My soul says, keep at it, girl, keep at it. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing. And until you're not, we're going to let you know. We're going to let you know the next step. So that's really, truly how I try to live my life, just in general.
I love it. And I love your dialogue, like the clarity of like, this is the truth. This is my higher self. And this is my mind here. And you're just like, hey, it's, I know it's the truth, but I don't want to do it, but I know I have to do it. But, and then the more you do it, I guess the clarity and the conversations are, very interesting. Thank you.
Well, like through this process, I just had to trust. And when I started doing readings for others, I was like, am I making this up? Is this even real? But then they're like, yes, 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 yes. And I was like, okay, well, and now at this point, I really know it's not coming from me. It's coming from an intelligent source of their soul records. So it's a learning curve, and just learning to trust the process and the journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One thing that I appreciate about you, Nikki, I think that's interesting is that, you're doing this deep work with people now on a very personal level, but you've also had this long run of kind of tremendous success, kind of in the conventional sense in business. And so, yeah, I'm curious about how you kind of reconcile those parts of you, and what is maybe something you used to believe about yourself, or maybe the way that you've done business that maybe you've had to let go of to kind of find yourself, at this moment where we are today?
So, in the past, I've really fragmented myself between this work, I call it the soul purpose work, and my matrix work. And over the years, and even now, there's moments where I have to just be fully me and authentically me in all aspects and not put them in boxes. It's really easy to put motherhood in this box and business in that box and my spiritual side in that box, and learning to integrate it all together. But that really required me to show up in my truth. And that meant using this and my voice to speak the truth to the people around me, because this hasn't always been me. Like I said, I was hustle, 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 do the thing. And I've really softened into my truth, and I had to speak that to the people around me and express. And I think that's really for me a soul lesson, honestly. One of those big soul lessons of really learning to just be authentically me in all aspects. And there's been moments where I have felt resentful about my matrix work, but then I have to come back and reframe my mindset around it. It's really provided me and my family with a very good life, and I'm extremely grateful for that. And just staying in that heart of gratitude and that place of gratitude of every day. And it's also allowed me to not feel pressure to have to make money and make a living and pay the bills with my soul purpose work, because I know not everybody is afforded that. And when you're starting down this path of really living in your truth, especially when it's a soul purpose business, when you're having that pressure of I gotta make money, I gotta make money, I gotta make money, the pressure's real and you can't ignore it, but you also can't let it drive you. So I've really been gifted with not having that pressure, and I feel very, very grateful for that.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's very wise. I think it's important just to reflect back and to share in different words what you're sharing, in terms of physiology, for us to be able to, well, that's my belief, I can hear my higher self better when I'm feeling safe. I can hear, when I'm in the meditation space. But if we are in constantly struggle because we need to make money, there is an energy that shrinks that we might not be able to fully connect because we are constantly in the matter thing, right? What is in front of me right now in the survival ship. And then all this expansion is held by a physiology of safety. So having a work, there's nothing wrong with that you have a work, that you have a job, that you built a business that supports the soul calling. And then maybe you can also make enough money on your soul calling business that it's gonna, but it's just different routes in a way, and maybe could be different phases. But it's I just find very important to mention that it's very hard to think about vision and dreaming big when you are in constant survival mode, and when the money is coming for my next rent, for example. So thanks for pointing that out. And related to the soul calling work, a lot of people, and that's most of the people that we work with, there is a struggle with visibility, like with being seen and putting themselves out there. Was visibility ever an issue for you? And then what shifted? Or maybe not, but like how is your relationship with like showing yourself in this work, the way you're doing here with us right now, for example?
So for me, this is a survival strategy. I think even at infancy, I was an observer of the people around me. And I've carried that through my life, really observing and connecting with the energy of people. I'm highly sensitive. I'm highly empathic. And being the observer requires you to be quiet and to observe the energy and take in what's coming at you so I could stay safe. And so for me, I actually asked my father just recently. I was having a conversation with him, like, what was I like as a child? And he's like, you were really quiet. You were the easy kid. I was the easy one because I was just observing and analyzing what's safe in my environment and what's not. And so when you shrink yourself like that and you're quiet for so long, speaking up is uncomfortable. And so visibility hasn't been my strong point. And it's something that I work on all the time. But in the work that I do with the people that I do with, the passion comes from a deeper place. I don't even really think about, the visibility aspect. But I think a lot of people suffer with this, not just me, but putting yourself out there in an uncomfortable way and in a new way. And really my vocal expression. You guys know that I lost my voice last year. And it's taken me up till this point. I'm really still working on the energetics of that loss. It's slowly improving, and I'm working within the records to rewrite the story around the safety of using my voice. It might be something that I work on for a while. I don't know, but I'm actively working on that visible point of my voice. My writing, I can write a whole story and be very honest and truthful with my writing. It's my vocal expression that I'm really working on and I've been working on. And I have a vision though. I have a vision and I'm trusting the process that one day it's not going to be a thing.
Yeah, and maybe
I
even
hold
this
that belief with you
conversation.
too.
Yeah, maybe even this conversation is part of that because I feel you showing up so powerfully in your service to your message, and it's also how I relate with it. I'd never been comfortable doing things like this, and there's something that's so true about when you find your calling, when you find this purpose and get in touch with that, and it's coming through clearly. It's almost like it's kind of like you said at the beginning of this conversation, like I keep getting pulled back to this and it's like, how can I not do this? And when that starts to kind of unfold from within, it's truly pulling you forward. And that's the same thing for me. It's like, how can I not do this? How can I not be here having these conversations? Even when there's the part of me that's still present right now as I'm speaking, that's just like, what are you doing? Like, why are you here? Like, what are you showing your face? Like all this stuff. And so yeah, I just really appreciate you being such a great example of that, being here with us today and sharing the way you have been. Next question I would love to ask you though is as it relates, and you've shared so much already and been really generous and answering the questions for folks that have been here. By the way, if there's anyone that's joining us that has any other questions for Nikki, feel free to put them in the chat. But yeah, I'm just curious, with this work you do, the Akashic Records, I feel like this is an area that oftentimes people do get kind of misunderstand what it is or overlook certain aspects of it. So is there anything that you see of that, like where people might come to you and, there's maybe a little bit of a misunderstanding about what this process looks like to do this work, and anything you might be able to say about that?
I want people to, I think I put a note out the other day about The Akashic Records aren't mystical. They're yours. The Akashic Records aren't like designated for some mystical spiritual guru. Everybody can access their records. Like I said, it's just your soul's energetic records. That's really just to really just narrow it down and make it the most simple way that people can understand it. And I want people to know that they have access to their records. They might need to know and learn, like I did, how to tap into that energetic record and how to do that consistently with surrender, because that's really what it takes, is just surrender and not trying to control what that looks like and just being open and curious. That's really the jumping off point, is being open and curious to explore this space within.
Mhm.
And I believe that the Akashic Records is going to become like an everyday term that people know about. It may not now, but it will be. And that's really my vision, is for people to be like, oh, I've got access to that and I can do it right now. So that's really my grand vision, is being able to source themselves from this energetic library. It's so powerful. And my experience in the records is all love, all light, all encouragement. And this is what I try and convey to my clients. If you're starting to hear a voice of doubt or criticism or like judgment, that's not your soul. That's your ego talking to you. So just know that's not your truth. And when you start to go into the records, you heal. My point of accessing the records is for healing in every way, and providing that healing for my clients and for myself. I go into my records every day, and sometimes a couple times a day. I used to have a process to get me there, and now, because through practice, I just go there, and anybody can do that. I'm not special. I'm not special. I may be special in the way that I teach and I empower, but I'm not special that I have this special golden key to the records. Everybody can do
Mhm.
that.
Yeah. And I really love that about your message, because it's such a self-empowering way of relating to your life and your experience. And I'd love to touch on that a little bit. I may have shared with you, or you may know a little bit in my history. I had a lot of chronic illness for over a decade, and I tried, and this is a very specific type of healing, but I tried a lot of different modalities. It did not work with the Akashic records, but one of the things that I remember going through is I tried a lot of other healing modalities and different ways of relating with the challenges that I was going through. And there would be times where I would just feel so stuck and so kind of deflated, because it takes a lot of energy to kind of get up the courage, or get up like, hey, I'm going to try again. And like, you start to feel like after you've tried a few things that, maybe, you've reached the limit of what's possible, and you need to kind of accept. And, fortunately, I never reached that limit, and I kept trying to find my truth. But I'm just curious, like, for someone who, in your experience with working with clients, for someone who's sitting at home who might feel like they've reached that point of feeling stuck, and they're questioning or having doubts if, there's something that can reconnect them or help them with their healing path, what would you say to them?
Well, first and foremost, you have to give yourself love and compassion and not judgment. And I think sometimes, and I'm going to use my own personal experience with the loss of my voice, because I tried everything. I did energetic healing. I did past life regression. I've done myofascial release. I've done massage, tapping, speech therapy, vibration plate. The list just goes on and on. And I always came back to my higher self. And my higher self has always encouraged me, love yourself through this. Give your body and your energy compassion. When you're in this, and I have a sense that you're a little bit like me, like just very ambitious and I've always prided myself in being able to solve a problem. I've always been able to solve a problem. And when you're not able to solve that one problem about yourself, you start to judge yourself and you think, what in the hell is wrong with me? And I also want to say that everybody has blind spots. And I'm not against psychic readings or Akashic readings or these other healing modalities and tools and methods because everybody has blind spots. And so I reached out to other people because I knew I had a blind spot with this. But the silver thread through this all is love yourself and give yourself compassion through this and trust the process. Hold the vision, but trust the process. And maybe if you're sitting with an ailment that you're trying to heal, all you need right now in this moment is love and compassion, not a solution.
That's beautiful and powerful. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Kind of coming back to you and where you are today, and you've shared a lot of your story. It's been over a decade since you've decided to go on this path of doing this work. What would you say if I was to ask you what you're most proud of? And maybe not just from your results, although you could speak to that if you would like, but also more so like who you've been becoming through this process of doing this work with people.
For me, it comes to my daughters because I want them to be really, truly empowered in their own truth. And me being the example for them in breaking generational trauma and karma and rewriting the story, not only for my children and my descendants, but for my ancestors. I'm making my ancestors proud. I'm making myself proud. And hopefully one day my children will look at me and this is making me emotional. And they'll say, you are a great role model for us. And I actually am having conversations with my kids like this. And I see how it could have went very different for them. The way that I was living my life was just so disembodied and disconnected and living for the external world. And I changed that. And I did that. And I feel very proud of that.
Yeah, I connect with that. And I just want to mention, like you shared with us, and I hold that vision for myself that maybe eventually will happen with my daughter. She's only 10, so she's not there. But that you had an experience like of working with one of your daughters, right? And just creating something together. And I think that's probably like, yeah, like I just imagining that maybe I will have the possibility to do that with my daughter, and through the example of like you stepping fully in who you are and just bringing her into your field and like express yourself, truly the way you are. It just makes my heart sing, and I hold that possibility for me too. So thank you.
It's there. It's in your field. And what my favorite mantra is, hold the vision, trust the process.
Yes.
And just surrender to that, like anything is possible.
Mm-hmm.
So for you, where would you say, the vision you have for your business right now and how you're working with people, where would you say you see that building towards? Like where is this all headed for you personally?
So I just opened my private mentorship called Soul and Mind Alchemy. And the basis of the mentorship is for my clients to come back to themselves, connect with their truth. And I also do shamanic healing. So I incorporate the Akashic Records We rewrite subconscious patterns within the Akashic Records. And I also do shamanic healing for people and do soul retrievals and destiny retrievals because this has been an extremely important aspect on my healing journey. And it's something I couldn't leave out of the mentorship, but it's really teaching women how to come back to themselves, learning the nuts and bolts of accessing their own records and getting familiar with that energy and working inside that energy and me supporting them every step of the way and learning to trust themselves through the process. And one by one, working with these women, that empowerment is the light spreads. And instead of focusing on the darkness in the world, because we know that there's a lot of chaos and stuff going on, each person, when they embrace their light, they're shining that light out to millions of people. And they're elevating their frequency when they're embodied in their truth. So that's really the mission of my work through Soul and Mind Alchemy.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you for everything you do because you hold so many of the same intentions as us. We're going about it in very different ways in many ways, but yeah, I just really appreciate how you're showing up and sharing. And if someone has been here with us live, or we'll be sharing this replay with our audience after the fact of this interview, if they've heard something that kind of they resonated with or made them more curious about your work, or what it might be like to even work with you, like what would be a best first step for them to learn more?
So I have a soul signal assessment. It's a quiz that will provide you with what your intuitive strength is, because we all have intuitive strengths. Our main clear ability, I'm sure people have heard of like clairvoyance, claircognizance, clairsentience. It'll tell you what your main intuitive ability is, so you can start tapping into that and listening and looking for that. And there's a fun twist to the quiz. It also shows you what your spirit animal medicine is, what you carry in this lifetime. So there's a fun twist to it. And they can find it at my website, which is nikkiheals.com, or it's on my Substack publication. And if you want to book a call to see how I can help you and where you're at and where you want to be and just have an honest conversation about that, you can also go to my website and go to the Work With Me tab and book a discovery call. And we can just have an open conversation of how I can help you in the next phase of your life for the next step of your journey.
Mm. Yes. Cool. Yeah, we'll make sure that all those links get included with this recap as well. So we'll make it really easy for people to find you. And the fact that we're here on Substack, and I know you've made Substack a big part of your home as well, makes it really easy for people to connect. So thank you so much for being here with us and sharing your story. And anything you'd like to say, Carolina, before we bring this to a close?
Yeah, just thank you for your time. And it was such an interesting conversation. I could keep going with you for a few hours more.
Yeah, I just looked. It's almost, almost been an hour.
Yeah, you're almost yeah.
No, it's just, I love having these types of conversations. And I thank you guys for this invitation. And it's been beautiful spending this time with you.
Yes, and thank you everybody for participating and asking great questions. So thank you, Nikki, and thank you everyone.
I just want to end with this.
Oh, yeah.
One of my favorite things that I go back to, it's a quote from Wayne Dyer, and it's "Don't die with the music inside."
Mm.
And I want people to know that you carry that music and that medicine, and it's time for you to shine.
Thank you. Thank you for your message. Yeah. And at one point in this conversation, you said that like, yes, we all have access and we have access now. Yeah. And I just love that. It's like, it's right now. It's a choice that we need to make, like not when something happens. Like I believe in that too. Like we have something inside that's uniquely ours that is meant to be expressed. And it's a decision that we can only make right now. So thank you for this great quote. Yes. Thank you, everyone.
All right,
Take care for now.
Until next time.
See
Bye,
ya.
Nikki.
Bye.
Bye.